In my last video, I built this massive city, and I absolutely love how it turned out. And while it is very attractive, much like your mother, it's also incredibly boring. So, like any reasonable man, I'm going to destroy my own base with an army of movie monsters. So let's get into the first of the 7 monsters for today, the Kraken. So my vision for this one is to have a container ship sitting in port, and then to have the Kraken pulling the container ship down to the bottom of the ocean. Now, I decided to start by building the port here, mostly because it let me procrastinate on building a literal goddamn Kraken. So, I started by building this wall along the outside of the port. I really wanted to keep things interesting with the floor here, and I felt like a plain noise texture would look, really fucking boring. So I decided to aimlessly drag around the axiom settings until I had done something of value. Eventually, my natural creative genius kicked in and gave me some results. See, while messing around with the brushes, I was able to create this messy grid pattern thing, and by taking this base and slapping more texture on top of it, I was able to create this look of moss growing out of cracks between the concrete pads on dock, and I'm actually really proud of how this turned out. I came up with a few different shipping container designs and just spammed a shit ton of them on a big ass pile here. And I also slapped in some of these goofy ass machines I use to move the containers around. Finally, I added the big crane to unload the ship and a few semis. And now, it's time for the scary shit. As it happens, I have literally never built a boat in all my years playing Minecraft. So safe to say, the idea of building a massive container ship on an angle had me shitting bricks. See, the big problem here is that I'm incompetent. Like many problems though, my incompetence could be solved through gaslighting. Basically, I gaslit myself by simply building the ship normally, and then I angled it after the fact using Axiom, which actually worked astonishingly well somehow after a bit of cleanup work. If you're struggling with an angle build like that, I would really recommend trying it. It is so much easier than actually having to, use your brain and think about diagonals in the stupid block game. Now that I've destroyed the ship, I need someone to blame it on. So, it's time to get to work on the Kraken. Anyway, I did the head first and I basically just sketched that out by hand. I have no advice on that, just place blocks and pray, pretty much. For the tentacles, I made a general sketch here of where I wanted them all going. And to actually build them, I just flew along the general path and did the set block command every once in a while in order to, get a vague line going. And then I selected all these points floating and used the world edit curve command to connect them. I thickened that line up with the weld tool and Axiom, and I went back in manually and cleaned off all the weird tumorous bits that were sticking to things. After that, though, I had a solid gold Kraken ready to go, which means it was time to paint it. And for painting, I took inspiration from this little fella here. Copied that general pattern, got the red and orange hues with a gradient to more of a purple color on the ends, and for the bottom bits, I just used some end stone and sandstone. Fuck. I forgot I had to gather resources for this baby. I hate chopping mangrove. And with that, the port and our first monster is officially done. Now it's time for the second monster, the staypuft Marshmallow Man. This is my first humanoid monster, which is a bit frightening. I spent a lot of time just, bullshitting around with the shape, mostly because I had no fucking clue what I was doing. The toughest part was creating these weird marshmallow fat roll things he's got going on. I basically ended up just building him in segments like a beetle or something. I've got the shape of the Marshmallow Man all defined here, but he's dripped out to gold diamond. Now it's time to color him. So I'm going into Axiom here, and we're going to go Noise Painter, and I'm going to use my brain to think of white blocks. We'll get some smooth quartz in there, see how that looks. Some iron blocks. Just anything in that white range is kind of what I'm going for right now. That doesn't actually look terrible. I'm not sure about the pattern though. So we can go in, we'll try splatter. My big hang up is I think the white concrete is not white enough. It's like almost too gray or blue. Although when you zoom out, I am not sure. Calcite maybe? Calcite might be a bold one. Yeah, calcite's worse. We're gonna try snow blocks. Because we do want him to be very... We don't want super aggressive texturing, because, I mean, he's made of marshmallow, you know? It's pretty... about as white as it gets. I like that. I definitely like that more than the white concrete. Alright, now one thing I want to do, go in his, rolls, because he's a lard ass here. But I want to go in there and I want to kind of shade these down with some darker colors, like a calcite, diorite, polish diorite. Good enough. With all the painting completed, it was time to build this fat ass in survival. Honestly, building this guy in survival is pretty easy. To be frankly honest, that's probably because it's so much smaller than the fucking kraken. But still, it was much easier. However, the dust effect here was a monumental pain in the ass, and that made me scared for my future. And with that guy done, we could move on to monster number 3, King Kong. This is going to be a lot harder than a Marshmallow Man because, as depicted in this glorious concept art, he's climbing a building, and that pose is going to be the hardest part of the shit by far. So I decided the best way to do this was to make a stick figure to get the the rough proportions and shit, and then fill out the body on top of that stick figure. And filling out the body proved to be really, really difficult and a pain in the ass, to be blunt. I honestly think it would have looked better if I made him a bit bulkier, but in the end I'm happy with the shape I got here. After that I gave him a quick paint job. A bit of a tip for anyone who needs help with block choice, I really recommend using the HueBlocks website. You can auto-generate gradients between any two blocks in the game, and you can also even enter just like hex codes and shit, and it'll just spit out whatever block is closest to that. It is incredibly useful for this kind of thing, especially if you're a dumbass like me. For monster number 4, I built this big, freaky Venus flytrap thing. Everyone told me after the fact that it looked like the plant from the Little Shop of Horrors, and I let them believe that that was the inspiration. But to be completely honest, it was actually just like a Batman level. Anyway, I decided this monster was going to go on this building that my friend Glitter kindly designed for me. I kicked things off by blowing it up, because her bitch ass made me fly to the middle of nowhere to get torch flowers for the house.
Oh man. Oh god. Oh man. Oh god.
Fuck you, Glitter. And after that, I laid out all the branches for the plant. I actually used the same basic process for this that I used for the tentacles on the kraken. Kind of interesting how that transfers, I guess. The stems I textured with some moss, lime terracotta, and green terracotta for shadows. I used bamboo logs and melons as a highlight, which actually blend together very well. Then I had the tricky part, the heads. This is already kind of a hard shape, but my brain dead ass put it on a diagonal, which did not help. However, after a while, I was able to bullshit my way to something that looked okay. Then I made the inside all fleshy and gross and slapped some gnarly teeth in it. I also added these flowers on some of the other stems, inspired, I guess, kind of by a hibiscus maybe. I don't know, I made one purple version and one blue version. I actually really like how the colors on these turned out. It really, brings a nice splash of color into this big green clusterfuck. After that, I went through and added some of those little offshoots and leaf clusters, which was just some of the highlight blocks and azalea leaf span. Lastly, on the street below, I tore some holes in the concrete and added some roots bursting out, which I really think ties the whole scene together a lot more. Honestly, I started out unsure of what to build for monster number 5. I felt like anything in a stadium looked too crowded with Godzilla right there, and the monsters that attack playgrounds usually aren't fan favorites. Eventually though, it finally came to me. I was going to build a moth. More specifically, Mothra from the Godzilla series. She's just a really fucking big moth, basically. And I'm going to slap her right on top of my favorite building in the city here. Now, designing this was super intimidating because the shape of moth wings is genuinely fucked to build in Minecraft, but after a few iterations with world edit, curve command bullshit, I eventually got a pretty good wireframe going. Once I had the body and wings filled in, it was time to start the painting process, which was going to be rather complicated for this one. I really like the look of these fake eye things a lot of moths have, and I took a lot of inspiration from that and some other images I found on Pinterest, which are pretty fucking dope. I painted in 2 stages, one where I just used the basic colors like red versus blue and shit, and then I went back and shaded each color, and I am super proud of the coloring on these. It is awesome. I'm so happy with this shit. To finish things off, I colored the body and added some antenna. They had a little bit of floof going on like these guys. But after that, I could start my most fucked resource gathering session yet. This had some incredibly whack materials. So I had to finally leave my storage room and do some gathering. Now I only had 2 monsters left to build. I was on the home stretch. Should be easy, right? Wrong. I was genuinely fucking cooked, because the server was going to be resetting soon, which meant I had 1 goddamn week left to design and build 2 more of these guys. And safe to say, this lit a fire under my ass. Speaking of fire, my next monster was Surtur, the big fire giant dude. So, I whipped up some quick concept art, pounded an energy drink, and locked the fuck in. Just like Kong, I started by posing the stick figure to get my proportions right. I filled things in from there. This did not go well. But I was not deterred. I had a monster to build, and I had too much goddamn caffeine to go to sleep, so I tinkered with it further until I finally got something acceptable. It was much better. Massive improvement. I don't know what I was on before. I learned a lot from my mistakes with Kong and ended up doing a much better, giving this guy definition. This motherfucker, he has never skipped a leg day in his life. When I painted him, I went for this look of like chunks of rock surrounding little magma veins throughout his body. Essentially, he was just a giant fucking magma block in the shape of a dude. Went through a couple different versions with it, and I think I got a pretty good balance in the end. With the sword, I wanted to make it look like it was, glowing orange from the heat and shit at the tip. but it's cooler, closer to the hand. What's the fuck is it called? The hilt. Once again, Hue blocks saved my ass here, although the material choices were suboptimal. After that, it was just a matter of plonking him in place and spamming a copious amount of flames and smoke. The smoke is pretty easy to do in creative because you just spam world edit brushes, but the fire is got a bit more definition. You gotta kind of go and taper the ends manually. I don't know how to really teach you how to do it. You just do it, trial and error pretty much. I also had some dust from the impact on the building and use big swooshes to give it a sort of some motion. I think that really animates the whole build visually. Then it was survival time. And this build was actually pretty easy to gather for. I had basically everything stocked up, my various farms around the world, and even the ancient debris was not a problem because I had left over from the perimeter. The only thing I really had to do was smelt and dye the glass and grab some lava. The actual build went really smooth too. Until the smoke. Shit. Fuck. Shit. Shit. Fuck. Balls. Shit. Fuck. Fuck. And before long, I was done with the fire giant. But there was no time to rest, because I had to design the grand finale, the ship from Independence Day. And I want it right here, blowing up the Capitol like this legendary shot from the movie. But there's a problem. I have to design and build this entire thing in the next 48 hours before the server closes. And that meant that it was once again time to lock the fuck in. Except I immediately ran into a massive problem. The issue I am facing is that putting things above, obviously putting something in front of the sun blocks the sun. Who would have guessed? But this looks like shit. Maybe we could get some glow light in? That definitely helps. But I still feel like that's darker than I might like. This is going to be a problem for future me, I think. So, with the problem ignored, I got to work. I basically threw down these patterns that you see on the bottom of the ship. It's not a one-to-one recreation because there's so much visual noise on the actual thing, and I really just didn't think that would translate good into the game. So I took some liberties of texture and color to kind of bring some of that in without going all the way. During that time, though, by some divine intervention, I managed to find a solution to my lighting problem. The solution was to just bust a hole in the ceiling. The problem is, though, I obviously don't want my ship to look like fucking Swiss cheese, which is where my genius comes in. Basically, I realized that skylight can go through carpet. So what I can do, I can just plop some glass in here, put carpet on top of it, and we have a hole to let light through. And from below, it is completely invisible, which means now I can design the ship without everything else just looking like shit below it and ruining everything I've already done. And design I did. In just one big night, I managed to pound out the entire design for the ship. And that meant, the next day, it was time to gather resources. Good fucking god, it has 46,000 blocks, what have I done? Now I may have been locked in, but this was pushing it a bit. So I called in my manual laborers. Unfortunately, my OBS footage of us working together got corrupted. So you get some flashback footage of me just bullshitting around. But with the four of us all together, we made some great progress. Until I went to take a shit.
What the fuck are you doing, bro?
Tangents aside, we got the job done insanely fast. It was only like a couple hours before we had all these blocks added. I was staggered. And then it was time to get into the final push with just hours left of the season. And with that final late night session, I had finally, 2 years after its conception, completed my mega base. And I am so unbelievably proud of how this all turned out. Especially considering that the entire concept started as a joke between Brad and I. That the entire idea of monsters attacking city started as a joke. And now we're here. Thanks for the help with that, Brad, even though you were pretty fucking worthless for the latter end of this project. Your spirit was still with me, mostly in the form of the weird bullshit you stuffed in our storage. I'd also like to thank Logan, Glitter, and Ash for hopping on to help finish the project out. Literally could not have done it without you guys, would have run out of time. Mostly because I wasn't going to be able to get my hands on Adderall for another week. As of recording this, the correct server has moved on and started a fresh world, which I will shit a video out from eventually. So yeah, I promise I'll shit out a video for that much quicker than I have been shitting out videos lately. For all you bums who are gonna beg for it in the comments, yes, there is a world download, and it's public. The link is in the description. You're welcome. So you can wander as you please, take inspiration. I don't fucking care really. Anyway, thank you guys, dear viewers, for all your love and support throughout the season. It's been a real fun time. Done a lot of cool shit. If you enjoyed, consider hitting the happy buttons for me, and I will see you guys next season.